All right, welcome into the Blurred Wire. It is your host, King Will, here to talk. We are going to. Last week, I kind of did a review of Daredevil Born Again, the last episode. Now, I want to do a full review of the entire series and kind of talk about it together as a whole. And in order to do that, I brought two very special guests. So, we'll start with Jeff. Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself to everybody? Tell them what you do, why you're here, and why you want to talk about Daredevil Born Again.
Most definitely. I appreciate it. Yeah, I'm Jeff S, aka True Knowledge, as I go by on the MCU's Bleeding Edge, which is the YouTube channel and podcast that I created and that I come from. I'm typically usually the solo and main ambassador. When it comes to representing the Bleeding Edge guest wise. But I brought a buddy with me. This week. It's good. Nice to have more than one member of the MCU's Bleeding Edge team, out, on another podcast. But it's good to be here.
We're glad to have you. Yeah. And Andreas, you can go ahead and introduce yourself as well. What do you do and why are you excited to be here?
Yes. I'm Andreas Diaz, aka the Pop Culture Guy. My channel, Andreas Pop Culture Channel Presents, is pretty much me presenting all pop culture things, movie reviews, TV reviews, and all that stuff is really fun. I also do shorts and live streams with Jeff and our other host that is in the MC Bleeding Edge Cybernetic Start. Weekly, 2 weeks, separately. And yeah, I was very happy to discuss more of Daredevil Morgan with Jeff, season 4. I always tried to get into these guest podcasts, but it was always scheduling that always get in the way. And so I was very excited for today, just perfect time. And so yeah, I'm very excited to talk about season 4, or Born Again, whatever you want to call this.
Yeah, right. Is it season 4 or is it Born Again? Yeah.
Yeah,
I think you can technically call it season 4 or season 1 because people call it either one. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. It kind of feels like it might as well be. And it's very interesting because it brings up a topic that we were kind of discussing beforehand. But yeah, we'll go ahead and dive right in and talk about our thoughts on it. And to me, there was a lot to like about it, and it does feel like a return to form. But I feel like for me, the thing I noticed the most is it did feel like we had two different ideas for what Daredevil Born Again was going to be. And it feels like one idea was a fresh new take on Daredevil that was pretty much leaving everything behind. Like I think in the original, like Bullseye wasn't going to be in it, Foggy, neither was Karen. Most of the people that we ended up seeing in it weren't really in it, and I feel like you could kind of tell because their storylines felt a little tacked on to what was already there. And then you have a couple of episodes like the Scottish one, I guess that came out like around St. Patrick's Day. That kind of felt like it kind of felt like it was in place, but I feel like you could also tell like I think they wanted this to be the first episode of Daredevil Born Again originally, or something like that. It just kind of felt like it was going in almost two different directions. But what did you guys think overall about Daredevil Born Again, whether we're saying it's season 1 or season 4?
Who do you want to go first?
Jeff, go ahead.
Okay, so sorry, man. We're used to have like somebody moderating, and calling names out on everything. You know what I mean?
yeah.
So
No
it,
worries, no
it,
worries.
it becomes part. It becomes kind of what you know. So if somebody doesn't call your name, you don't talk.
Yeah, it's like
Um,
raise your hand in class.
but anyways, yeah, I mean, I was a little bit disappointed with Daredevil Born Again. The more that time passes, since I watched it and covered it on the Bleeding Edge, and discussed all the episodes and broke them down in depth. As usually goes with these television shows, of any kind of genre, I think. Over time, later on, you end up having a different, sort of a more and more, different outlook, kind of really quickly, on the
Hmm.
show, especially if you're talking about the problems with a TV show, or a film
Right.
even,
Hmm.
or the mistakes or the issues, those are the things that kind of typically those things will stand out to you more,
Hmm.
once you've had a little time to like kind of linger with something like Daredevil Born Again. So now that I've had a little bit of time to kind of sit on it, it's easier for me now that I'm not in the heat of watching it, covering it and all that, and still trying to carry, kind of root for it, you know what I'm saying? Watch
Right.
it be good.
Right.
It's easier for me now to kind of look back at it and say, I don't really know where they decided where they thought they were going with us
Hmm.
with Born Again. I don't get the story. It's discombobulated across the span of the 9 episodes. There's not a real strong sense of connectivity, and consistency story wise. You know what I'm saying? That you get in the Netflix Daredevil, which you're going to hear from me and Andres multiple times.
Oh yes, me
Uh,
too. Me too.
so there just isn't that same connective tissue, or
Hmm.
energy that in Netflix Daredevil that carries over throughout a season, episode to episode. You know what I'm saying? And that sense of similarity with the story, to where like you're in the story, right? And it feels the same. It feels normal, like it's going. You know what I'm saying? And it makes sense. Like you get it. You see the direction. You get the directions and the terms and
Where
stuff that
they're
it
going.
takes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes. With Born Again, there was not that same sense of consistency. There was some episodes that kind of were standalone almost,
Yeah.
and didn't mesh well with the overall product of the season, or like connect at all really, or fit in. There were times where they went off the main story completely in episodes and just focused in on specific characters. You know what I'm saying? Or like or sets of characters. You know what I mean? And that's it. You know what I mean? There was too much Matt Murdock and not enough Daredevil in Born Again. I think. When you make the comparison to Netflix Daredevil and Daredevil Born Again, there was more Daredevil in costume in the Netflix Daredevil in the episodes.
Hmm.
Across the span of 9 episodes of a Daredevil season on Netflix, you saw more Daredevil in action in costume than you saw in Born Again. There was an obvious decision made, to feature a lot of just Matt Murdock in the season after Foggy died. You know what I'm saying? And kind of, him becoming Daredevil kind of being like a sort of a last ditch thing almost. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Right.
Like a go to, kind of last, resort kind of thing that he didn't even want to like do at first there in the season. Which made sense, but he's still Daredevil.
Yeah.
And let's be honest, some of the best action scenes in Daredevil Netflix, some of the best hand-to-hand combat and all that comes out of him in costume, whether it's the mask or the outfit, out there fighting crime as Daredevil in some form or fashion, or fighting some form of evil or bad people or ninjas or whatever, right? I mean, I don't want to pick apart Born Again, up and down, but
Right.
the girlfriend character was useless. Did not even need to be in the
Yeah.
show.
Yeah.
She
I
she
just.
she 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 detracted from the show. You know what I'm saying? Like I tell you right now, if you polled male and female, MCU Daredevil fans, a lot of people watched that show. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
I didn't see the ratings overall. I know that initially the first 2 episodes they actually did not do that well, to be honest with you, compared to other Marvel Disney Plus shows. They were down. But I don't. I blame that on the MCU. In general.
Hmm.
I don't really put that on Daredevil's back. But I think if you polled people, you'd get a unanimous, reaction from folks that would say, "Yeah, that girlfriend, nah, man, she did not. I didn't like her. You know what I'm saying? It was like, it was like a character that was made to be hated and disliked, kind of almost.
It's,
You know?
yeah, just it felt like I think the main thing I can take away from Daredevil Born Again is there was a lot of unnecessary decisions. Like the girlfriend, she wasn't really necessary to the like they just added her in and were just like, hey, here's another girlfriend for Matt Murdock. When it's like you still had all these other characters from the 3 seasons of Daredevil that you could have explored or done something with. And even the whole idea, like I guess it matches the theme of being born again because he stopped being Daredevil and then started again. But you didn't have to do that because we spent 3 or 4 episodes before he put the costume on. And this show is what established that he stopped being Daredevil. You like it wasn't like at the end of season 3 he decided, okay, I'm not Daredevil anymore. They decided to stop him from being Daredevil at the very beginning, and then have us work back up to it 3, 4 episodes a year later, skip ahead, so that way he can become Daredevil again. And it's like we could have just started with him as Daredevil. Like you gave us a reason for him to stop being Daredevil only for him to continue being Daredevil. Like it didn't really like it felt unnecessary. It felt like we're just taking a lot more time than we necessarily need to.
Well, I guess to try to basically just put a bow on it or whatever, I just really feel like I don't know universally 100%. Like I don't know, scientifically, factually, that the Daredevil Netflix show is 100% known, like across
Hmm.
the board as as a really super high quality television show, but I want to believe that overall it is viewed that way. You know what I'm saying? When you look at the reviews and when you talk to other creators in the space, and talk to people who are for fans of the comics or Daredevil in general, they liked the show. It was a great show. It's considered, a wonderful show that ended,
Yeah.
that unfortunately ended,
Hmm.
A lot of people didn't want it to end. It came out on Netflix, so I mean that cut down on the amount of the appeal that those Netflix Marvel shows had a chance to even have to begin with, audience wise. But I just feel like there was something there, a model that they could have simply copied,
Oh yeah.
and pasted into Born Again, essentially, right? They could
Hmm.
have brought in different creative minds, which they did, right? For some reason they had to do that instead of just bringing back the Netflix people, right? Which you imagine would not be hard to do. They'd want to come back and do Daredevil, or the Punisher folks that they brought in, right? Would want to do more Netflix Marvel,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But they took them a while to make that move. But I mean, even with new creators, you'd think that you could see it in the first two episodes. You could see them making that effort to try to inject that Netflix Daredevil energy and that Netflix Daredevil grit. You know what I'm saying? And several of small elements of the way that they handled his senses, they copied over. You know what I'm saying? Almost completely, right? So like they obviously made an effort to head in that direction, but they just went too far away from that that sort of baseline that was already there in terms of like, hey, do it something similar to this. You know what I'm saying? And basically it's fail it's foolproof. They went too far away and went too far in the Disney Plus
Yeah.
MCU direction. You know what I mean? And
Yeah. And
that affected the atmosphere and the energy, right?
mhm.
And the sort of the vibe, of the actual show, you know.
Yeah, and it kind of makes me wonder if you have any thoughts on this too, Andreas, because it's like when Disney first decided to launch Disney Plus, they had an opportunity for Netflix to either be a customer or a competitor, right? Because all the Marvel things that are being put on Netflix, Netflix is a customer. Netflix needs this Marvel stuff because people that love Marvel are now buying their Netflix subscriptions. And Marvel is still getting money because you're licensing Marvel characters. So Disney's getting paid from Netflix. And then they decided, okay, no, we want a slice of the pie. We want a slice of that streaming revenue. So we're going to create our own. And to date, Disney hasn't even come close to matching the profit streams that Netflix has generated. And you look at these Marvel shows, and like most people will still say the Netflix shows, Jessica Jones, Daredevil, Luke Cage, have all been way better than Disney Plus. And it makes you wonder, like, what if Disney had just had Netflix make all their Marvel stuff and just got paid by Netflix and just let them take care of it? And maybe we wouldn't be in this mess that we're in right now.
Well,
Well, hold on.
I
Well,
mean,
are we both going to get cracks at these questions? You know what I'm saying?
I
Because
You
mean,
both will get cracks at it. Yeah,
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 yeah.
yeah, yeah,
They already. I mean, they kind of did that before this whole Disney Plus thing was a thing. They had a good, foundation, just letting out their product to other streaming service. I mean,
yeah. Hmm.
let's not forget, this is not the only streaming service they did. Like Hulu had the Runaways. I mean,
Right.
other networks like ABC had Agents of Shield. The problem was all those shows were not with the Marvel Studios umbrella. All that was the other regime, the Marvel Entertainment. That was,
Marvel
yeah, Marvel
Television.
Television, right?
Hmm.
Not Marvel Studios. So, but yeah, I mean, in general, just my thoughts of the season. I thought the season was okay. It's definitely better than all the weaker, Disney Plus shows like Secret Invasion and,
Hmm. Yeah.
She-Hulk. I think it's all
Yeah.
much better because I think you care more about the characters here. Um, I think initially this show was supposed to be a full-on reboot of Daredevil. I think, it's kind of like the same situation with Loki. When Thor: The Dark World happened, they didn't know how popular Loki was, and I think here they heard like the Netflix Daredevil is the most popular thing that they have in their like Marvel brand, and they were shocked about it, and like so that's why we saw the revamp. During the strikes, obviously we have to know that the strikes helped them to get revamp all this this thing, bringing back Karen. Bullseye, Foggy, and even the Punisher, and to really connect more with the Netflix show, which it could be either good or bad, but I think it's necessary because you need to understand the history that Daredevil has with Kingpin, and like at least understand the psychology and the beef that these two have for these last 10 years or so since
Hmm.
2015, which is crazy. And I think you can tell from episode one, eight, nine, that is the new showrunner's vision. I think episode one, eight, and nine is definitely the best of the show because that's what they want. Like that's the show they were
Bullseye,
trying to
Kingpin, Karen,
yeah,
Foggy.
Karen.
Yeah.
That's what we were really wanted. From two
Hmm.
to like six or from two to six is where that was like the other people's ideas. Like that was the
So
like
you think
soft
White Tiger, Muse, those were all part of
was
the soft reboot?
the soft root boot because just the way the White Tiger storyline just like was kind of there and this we didn't drop it, but like it just completely was like
It felt like
not
it was dropped. Like
drop it.
I think it
Like
was just dropped. Like it lasted for 2 episodes.
yeah, two episodes, but that's the same thing with the Muse. Well, like I was
Right.
shocked when we got to the Muse storyline. I was like, what the hell? And Will, you brought up the St. Patrick's episode, the episode five with Kamala Khan's father there. That felt
Right.
like
The
that
bank, the
the bank
bank
thing.
heist episode. Yeah.
Yeah, the
Right.
bank
Bank
heist thing.
heist. Yeah.
Yeah, I like it, but I feel like that felt like such a Disney Plus thing. You could easily
It
see
did. It felt like an episode of Miss Marvel.
yeah, Miss
Hmm.
Marvel, and so
And I
like
thought Miss Marvel was adorable, but
yeah,
that's not really
I,
what I want in my Daredevil Born Again.
yeah,
dude, Miss Marvel has like a 94% Rotten Tomatoes, bro. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And there's a reason for that. That was actually a dope series. It just was
yeah.
made for like a teenage audience. You know what I mean?
Right.
So and speaking of board again, so like here's the thing, like it's always a problem with these combo characters where we're going to retread so much storylines. This is like the third time that we see Daredevil like being quitting on something. So let me be clear here. Season three, Daredevil didn't quit as Daredevil. He quit as Matt. He quit his normal life to just continue on his Daredevil role. So that's why he go back to the black like the homemade suit that we like from season one, and he did quit during the Defender storyline. Like a lot of people forget about this. He quit during the between season two and the Defenders, where he was just Matt, and he was forced to get back to Daredevil because Elektra came back from the dead,
Hmm.
because of the hand stuff. So this was the third time that they were trying to do that, and the Born Again tile was so confusing. They just did it because it's like Spider-Man: Homecoming and the upcoming Fantastic Four first steps. It was just like a very cute, like, oh look, we're getting back this character into our universe. Like Homecoming, is the host, the high school thing, for home, but it's also this like deeper meaning of like, oh my God, Spider-Man is coming back from Marvel, in their
Right.
universe. And
Right.
first steps is like Fantastic Four is taking their first steps into the MCU, and how important they are in the multi. Like, so I get why they were doing the Born Again tile, but that's confusing because they already did the Born Again storyline in season three.
Yeah.
So again, I think they did. I feel like they just. For me personally, just maybe just change it to just Daredevil. I don't need the Born Again like tile. It's just too like cute, like under our nose. It's like, yeah, I get you getting Daredevil back in your Marvel, like the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but like it's like it was basically season four in episode one and eight and nine, because it was like it felt connected with the storyline they were trying to do with the Foggy thing. When we got to episode eight, I remember I was like, now we're bringing foggy again with with all that, and I was like, oh, okay, I see what they were trying to do. Where like from 2 to 6, or yeah, 2 to 7, right? It was like that was like all the original like Disney the first phase of the Daredevil Morgan they were trying to do, but then it was like it didn't fit, and so
Yeah.
yeah, it was really difficult to like really accept this new version. It was, but for a show that was trying to try to do the reshoots, it was really impressive that it like was all cohesive enough for like the
Yeah,
first
that they
season.
still got a cohesive project at the end of it.
Yeah, because I cannot say that with the other shows that we had. Like Secret Invasion was bad
Yeah, it was a
for
hot
that
mess.
six. It was a hot mess. Like as Jeff brought up before, it was like a 215 whatever like $1 billion because they had to reshoot the whole show.
But at least they had cohesion, you know, from episode to episode as a show. It did have cohesion, you know. It
Oh, yeah,
bounced from episode to episode, and you know, and ended and picked up kind of, you know, on the same note, you know.
yeah, in Daredevil Born Again. Yeah, yeah.
No,
I
in
was like,
Secret Invasion,
really? I
yeah,
disagree. I
it wasn't a good show. I'm just
no.
saying that as far as like an episodical TV series, going from episode to episode, you know how we talk about that a lot, you know,
Yeah,
when we
yeah.
break down shows. I feel like Secret Invasion did have connectivity, like, you know, when an episode
Well,
ended and then picked up, like, you know, the story, you know, kept up.
yeah, sort of. I mean, in the first three
It
episodes,
didn't have standalone episodes during the 6 episodes like the bank
that's
heist episode, you know.
yeah. Actually, okay. That is, I see what you're saying. Yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah.
I meant what I was meaning for Secret Invasion. It was just like the whole series just dropped really quality wise, and like it just became like a cheap show to look at,
Yeah.
and the production side of it, I was saying, where I understand where you're coming from, the many episodes. That's another thing. It's good that Jeff you brought up the episodes. I like the 9 episodes. It's a good total to tell your story, but you don't need 9 episodes. I think you could easily tell the story either 8 or 10 like episodes. Like I feel like that's a good amount enough. I felt the pacing of the show was like okay, but it was I they need improvement in the second season, which I hope. But thankfully, the new showrunner from the Punisher show is taking over, and so I think we're in good hands for the second season. That's the one thing that's great about this show over the other
Yeah.
ones, is like at least that
See, I don't agree with you, Andres. I don't think the pacing was very good because again, there
I
just
didn't say it was good.
there
It was
was
okay.
there wasn't enough action overall
Right.
in the
I agree
series.
with
The
that.
9 episodes,
Yeah,
Mhm.
there was a dearth of action and especially hand to hand combat, which was a major strength of Netflix Daredevil. Was that really, you know,
yeah,
everybody, you know, who watched it knew that it had the great fight choreography, you know, the great hand to hand fighting, the you know the hallway scene, you know, from season one, you know.
Mhm.
We didn't have enough moments like the Bullseye, you know, entrance into episode one, you know, there just wasn't enough of that type of action, you know,
Yeah.
in the series. And like honestly, that took away from that balance, you know, of the drama, right? With Matt
Mhm.
Murdock and the legal stuff and Karen and the, you know, the other characters, and then the action, and the Daredevil and the Punisher, and you know, and that kind of stuff, the Kingpin,
yeah,
and you know, and the villains and stuff. You know, there wasn't enough of that balance. I felt like, if that
I
makes
agree.
sense, and
and
I
I
think
agree.
Yeah.
that hurt the pace of the series, and it made it again sort of disjointed, you know, in a way, because you know there were episodes like the first 2 episodes where you could tell they were filmed differently, or they came out of the reshoots, and
Yep.
they, you know, they did not fit with the rest of the show almost, you know,
Yeah.
and they stood out, you know, and because it was like, okay, you know, this looks like Daredevil, you know what I mean? But then it sort of went in that Disney Plus direction again, you know, and I
Mhm.
feel like that really, you know, that and the decisions they made to kill off so many characters, you
That was
know,
kind of
Foggy, you know, didn't have to be killed in order for Matt Murdock to be born again or whatever. You know, it didn't have to happen. He's a great character. When you're basically reintroducing a character like Daredevil in a TV show to an audience, you want to keep your strengths with the show, not, you know, lose them. Killing off the Muse in 2 episodes, killing off White Tiger on that 2 episode arc, like Andre said. What good did that do the series? You know what I'm saying? Like
And
good
like
characters and just kill them off like that.
And my thought process is it kind of ties in exactly what you guys are saying, how there wasn't enough action and how it kind of felt like they just kind of moved from one storyline to another. Because in the Daredevil Netflix series, you could have multiple threads of things that were happening, but they were stretched out over episodes. So, like the Hector Ayala trial, like that could have been stretched out over like 5 episodes. And then you could have also had Muse. So, like, Daredevil is fighting Muse, and Matt Murdock is trying to help White Tiger. Stretched out over 5 episodes instead of
Well, there you
two
go.
episodes of White Tiger and 2 episodes of Muse. And
That's
if,
it. They could have had
right,
White Tiger suit up with Daredevil and fight crime a little bit or something like that. We never got to see White Tiger really in action.
right,
Yeah,
right. And
yeah,
when
No,
you're, and I don't like when they just kill characters for shock value. Like, if you want to kill Foggy, I understand if it's part of the story, but it's like you did that to get a shock value to try to draw us in and give Daredevil a reason. Really, if Foggy was going to die, or it could have been Karen, that should have been something that happened in like episode 5 or 6. So now, because like we had a chance to get to know the character again, and then if you kill them off, now that's a gut-wrenching punch. And then you can get to the climax. And that's when, Muse dies, White Tiger dies, Foggy or Karen die, and Kingpin starts taking over the city. Now that's a climax that's building up to something, and you had a chance to get reattached to the character. And like, how cool would it have been if, because in the comics, like it's weird how they used Born Again because like season 3 of Daredevil already touched on a lot of themes from the comic run of Born Again, where where Bullseye kills Karen in the church. Like all of that is in, except he doesn't actually kill her. They changed that in season 3 of Daredevil. But like they used a lot of themes from that comic run of Daredevil Born Again. And I had just finished Punisher when I was watching into this, so I'm like, how much better of a storyline is if, 4 or 5 episodes in, after we get a chance to reintroduce and get close to Karen again, she gets killed by Bullseye, and now Punisher, who was extremely close to Karen, is gonna want to kill Bullseye. So then we could get a three-way fight between Punisher, Daredevil, and Bullseye. And Daredevil's like, I'm trying to keep Punisher from killing Bullseye, but also Bullseye just killed one of my best friends, and should I just let him just kill him? It's like they had so many things that they could have done if they maybe just went with the original Netflix showrunners, or instead of like, I felt like they were trying to be episodic with it, but also not like
yeah.
it felt like they wanted to be episodic, but it ended up looking more like abandoning storylines, which is the best way I can put it.
well, yeah, there were a lot of like there were a lot of small plot lines and small little things that they added and started during Born Again, like the
Hmm.
therapy sessions with the fists. Never
Yeah,
went
and then
anywhere. You know what I
never,
mean?
yeah,
Right.
White Tiger's death by the Punisher cops. They never really serviced or paid that off really at all. They just had that crap at the end there with Punisher and them. The Punisher cops, right? They had that moment, but they never really serviced that. You know what I'm saying? Or made that a big thing. Like or did anything with the Punisher cops. They just had them be responsible for White Tiger's death. You know what I mean? I feel like those are missed opportunities where it was just bad decision making when it comes to like how they structured the show and laid it out. With the story, they made some bad moves. I think some bad decisions. Where they could have gone in a different direction, like you said.
Hmm.
Well, and
yeah,
you don't want to have to look back at a TV show and think that much about things like that. You don't want to be have to be talking about saying those things because those are good things to say. To be brought up about a TV show. And honestly, I feel like it had to be have been a tough line, to know, where to go with Daredevil after so much time had passed since the show ended on Netflix. I know there was a line they had to straddle in terms of the fact that again, there are people out there going into Daredevil that hadn't watched the Netflix Daredevil.
Hmm.
There are
yeah,
people out there, that have Disney Plus that were seeing it for the first time. They know that, so that was a line that they had to take into consideration. I think, but at the same time, I think that they could have done more addition and more adding on to Born Again. They could have brought Jessica Jones in, instead of waiting for season 2. They could have brought her in on season 1. Just adding anything as bonuses, I think would have helped the show. Having
Hmm.
Karen around more.
yeah,
Right.
Karen's a major strength of Daredevil, Netflix. So I mean, they sort of wasted her in a way, and not having her around all through the season. When she's on the screen and then season one in Born Again, she helps the show. It's better.
Right. And like I
Yeah,
said, I had just finished Punisher, and I didn't realize how close she ended up getting to Frank Castle's character. And so
yeah,
Yeah.
again,
Oh
all the
yeah.
more
and
so
yeah.
reason because a lot
That
of
actress
people,
that
yeah,
actress got a lot of work in over there with Netflix on the Marvel stuff. She got a lot of
yeah,
play.
yeah, and that's all the more reason why. Again, if you have new people coming in who maybe don't know Daredevil, and again, I can understand like in comics, sometimes characters have to be killed, sometimes they have to die. It moves things forward, and in the comics, Karen Page does die, and you could have swapped it to Foggy either way. But again, especially because you have new people coming in, you need to make those people love Foggy and Karen as much as Matt does, right? And so you
Yeah.
Plus,
need them in for
but
multiple episodes.
and that hits your point home right there. In the comics, Karen Page was established as a character. You know what I'm saying? Then she died, right?
Hmm.
Yeah,
You know, so I mean that just to hammer down your point.
yeah. Um, I mean, one thing I, yeah, I mean, despite the mixed stuff we have here, I think the one thing that they understood that what really worked for the Netflix show that I gotta say that season two didn't had was the Kingpin and Daredevil's relationship, because that was really the strength that this season had. I
Hmm.
say like, yeah, like a lot of the storylines just didn't work, but the Kingpin and Daredevil storyline, like paralleling them of
The
like
duality.
the
Right,
duality,
right.
of them coming back as their old selves was really the best thing about Oregon season one. I was like every time like Kingpin despite the therapy session didn't go anywhere as Jeff said before, which I agreed, but like it was very interesting to see how Vanessa and Kingpin's relationship was gonna get better or get worse. And after was like I think episode seven or like eight, I think, right? Like it was like, oh, she's still the side of Kingpin, and like she is even more worse than Fisk. Like the fact that we find out that she was the one that sent out Bullseye to kill Foggy because of the whole plan about the Red Hook thing to like exploit her art and all the money laundry for free and not get interrupted by police checkups and all that. And that was really interesting. And then you look at Daredevil having to struggle to not go back to as Daredevil, and then of course when he gets back to it, you see how it affected Heather's relationship. Despite we don't like the character, I mean she is definitely the weakest love interest, but it was always
Yeah.
funny to see their relationship deteriorate. And like it was like that was really the good stuff for this season. I felt like that really worked. And I mean, again, that diner scene with Fisk and Matt was the best highlight of the season. So I just thought
Right.
they still had their chemistry, and the writing there with those two just was still on point as the Netflix show. So that aspect of this show with the Daredevil and Kingpin parallels and the duality was like really the highlight for me in this season that I think really works, and hopefully that will continue on season two, which is good. I think
Yeah.
that was the part they were successful enough to carry on
Hmm.
because that was the strength from season one and three. And I'm really excited the fact that we get Bullseye into that mix to even elevate that even more in season two, you know?
Yeah, because Bullseye is one of my favorite. Like I loved season three because Wilson's Bethel's performance as Bullseye I thought was
Yeah,
not to
very
be
good.
um too punny,
Pun.
but he nailed it. He hit the bullseye. I mean,
It
he
was
just that's what he did. So and again, we're not saying it was a bad show necessarily because there are some storylines that are just so bad that you just toss those out. Like Secret Invasion, just toss that out. She-Hulk,
yeah,
you just toss that out, right? To me, it's just the way they structured it when it should have been kind of stretched out and it felt like they just kind of moved from one beat to the next and it felt
yeah,
very uncomfortable for us to be able to sit in and see everything that's happening all at once. And I think that's just all we're really getting across here because obviously Vincent D'Onofrio still crushed it as Kingpin. And now we're going to really see what happens when the city's going crazy. And I heard that it was always supposed to be like 18 episodes and they wanted to do like a part one and a part two.
yeah.
And so this will be kind of
Part one. Yeah,
yeah, yeah. So I guess they'll bring in a lot of the defenders in part two, I'm guessing, because he's like, I need an army, when he was on the docks with Karen.
yeah.
Um, so yeah, we'll see how it goes, but it's like at this point, but again, like based upon the way the story went, it's like, did you need White Tiger and Muse in the story? Like if you take Muse out, what changes?
Really
Anything?
nothing.
Anything at
Nothing.
all? Yeah, and I'm like, if that's what happens in your story, that's not really a good character to add,
But
in my
again,
opinion.
that just lays right in the category of where with Muse it just as a character, even villains, villains are just like heroes. As characters, they need to be given the space and the time,
Hmm.
to establish themselves. You know what I'm saying? To where they have the kind of real full impact or value. You know what I mean? On a show that they can have. You know what I'm saying? They did not use Muse enough. They barely used him. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Like, he's
Yeah.
supposed to be this major villain, right? One of the aspects of the MCU and going into these Disney Plus shows in the year 2025, right, is that with the interwebs and all that shit, right, and YouTube, pumping all the time, with different creators talking about these shows and Marvel and all that, and the buzz, the water cooler buzz and all that. The whole hype, us getting hyped for Daredevil, born again. Part of that was Muse, you know, that they threw Muse's name out there in all the press, releases and all the information, all the trailers and all that. They made Muse this big deal, and then they barely even did anything with him. And he was
Yeah.
a he was a very interesting character, you know. I mean, and then they didn't even kill him off well. They let Heather kill him. Like,
Yeah.
nah, man. You know what I'm saying? Seriously. Again, it's just a waste, John
Yeah.
Bernthal's Punisher is excellent. I thought they were going to do 3 episodes with him at Born Again. Every time he's on screen with Daredevil, just like with Kingpin, the chemistry between Bernthal and Charlie Murphy is like off the screen.
Oh yeah.
Like again, I mean, just like in the comics, having team ups is an integral aspect of the superhero genre. You know, uh, whether it's the Defenders or whether it's simply just Punisher and Daredevil, right? Team ups are a big deal. They really, they make it better. They make the comics better. They make the shows better. So I could have done with more Punisher. Why not? All they're gonna do with it is give him a TV special that's not gonna be an hour long. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And that
What's it gonna
special.
hurt?
Yeah.
Yeah. And as far as them bringing the Defenders back for Daredevil season 2 on Disney Plus, Daredevil season 5 overall, that's a tough one because honestly, there's been the rumors that we all know of that they were going to bring back Luke Cage or at least bring back Christian Ritter, to the MCU. I just honestly, that's a tough stretch, as to whether or not they really will bring back anybody else besides Christian Ritter, Jessica Jones. I love Luke Cage, but I mean, honestly, I just don't know. I think Marvel's being careful about introducing characters at this point.
Hmm.
Oh yeah. I mean, because that's been a big issue with Phase 4 or 5. It's like all the post credits they were just using new characters, like Fox, whatever from Internals, Clea from Doctor Strange 2, and yeah, all these Hercules from Love and Thunder. So yeah, I understand that, but like at the same time, it's like when you say armies, like you have to be careful with that. It's like you don't want to give us expectation that like half of New York's street level heroes going to join. It's like you
Right,
got,
because
you know,
Spider-Man's not going to be there, but also why
yeah,
wouldn't he be there? But like
yeah,
we know he's
exactly,
not, but why wouldn't he? Is
But contract and budget constraints.
right.
exactly.
Right, like we know, but it's like again in the story in the universe, there are no budget constraints for a superhero to show up and help save the day if he lives in New York, right? And so those are the kind of things that's like it's hard to like really fathom how exactly that's going to
If
go.
if if
So,
Marvel if Marvel still owned that IP, you'd have Spider-Man in Daredevil
oh
season
yeah.
2.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
definitely, definitely.
So, do you guys have any closing thoughts to kind of wrap up our review of Daredevil Born Again? I know it seems like why don't we each give it a score? So, like, out of 10, I'm probably leaning on like a 6.5, almost a 7. That way, to kind of understand where we fit. Because, again, I don't think the show was a total waste. I think it had some good storylines. It just wasn't really organized or structured properly. So, I'm going to go with like, I'll say a 7. I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10.
Yeah, I think for me because one of our guests said that before in the season finale. I think I give it 8 out of 10 because I thought
Okay.
it was better than the other Disney Plus shows. For a show that got revamped, it was at least cohesive enough, and at least the performances were top notch from Charlie Cox and Vincent D'Onofrio. And there were moments that like it was really shocking. Like, I mean, the season finale where Kingpin crushed the commissioner's
Yeah.
head like
I
that.
was
It
like, are
was
we watching Invincible right now? Like, what's
yeah,
happening? That was
Invincible
oh.
or The Boys. Like I was like I was like, oh, okay, we're back to Netflix level. I was like, yes, we're back in love, with that. Yeah, 8 out of 10 for the whole like for the show because they like gave us the Daredevil Kingpin relationship. That was like the best thing about the season, and they knew that that was the thing people liked about the original show, and they delivered that at least. It was just the other stuff around it. It was like kind of like, I didn't care about that. I did not care about the new characters that we had here. They were so underdeveloped. Like I can take it and leave it to not see them again. And season two, we'll see. Because it was funny when Carrie came back in episode 9. It was like, and to see her. Frank and Daredevil together as the triad, it was like so much better than what we were getting from like Matt's like crew of like Cherry and Kristen. It was like it just never like went to the level that we loved about the original Netflix characters of like Karen, Frank, and
Mhm.
Foggy. Just they had such a par like for each other as like at these characters, and it just worked. So where these new characters was like bleh, down like
Yeah.
downgrade. So yeah, 8 out of 10 for me. I mean I tell people like go watch it. It's good. It's at least entertaining. At least we got Daredevil now in MCU, which is good. Like I really want to see Miss Marvel crossing over Daredevil. Like that was like I was like, oh my God, he's now friends with Miss Marvel's family. That is so cool.
Hmm.
And yeah, you know, I hope that we see Charlie Cox soon in the movies. I really
Yeah.
want to see the Spider-Man, Daredevil team up because that was how I met Daredevil. It was because of the team up he had in the '90s cartoon show.
Yeah.
So, fingers crossed, hopefully. But yeah, yeah, that's where I'm at with the show.
How about you, Jeff? You got a score you could give it?
Yeah, I think probably like I don't know, maybe a 6 or something like that. I'm not really good at rating whole like seasons and stuff like that.
Hmm.
I'm not personally a big fan of trying to slap down a 1 to 10 rating on a whole season. It's tough. But I guess I'd give it a 6 probably. I mean, it wasn't a bad TV show.
Hmm.
It had good things going for it, right? And I think that it probably just had higher expectations set for it based off of what had already been done with Netflix Daredevil that they just unfortunately they did not come close to beating with Born Again. Now they can regain that. They can bounce back with season two. If they want to. I'm sure they're very aware and they've heard from the streets, like what people's faults and issues were with Born Again. I'm sure that's worked its way up the pipeline to Marvel by now. They know, that there are people that had problems with it, right? So I'm sure that they'll probably try to, change some things, make some fixes, to do some stuff coming off season one to try to go in a different direction, maybe, while still retain, some of that, the same stuff that they had going on in season one. But overall, I mean, I just was a little bit disappointed overall with the show. I thought it could have been better.
Yeah, I think that's just like we feel like it could have been better. Like not like it can't had to be canceled, but like She-Hulk and Secret Invasion, it's hard for me to look at like how it could have been better other than firing everybody that wrote it and hiring new people. But here it feels like we can watch it and see how it could have been just done a little bit better. So thank you guys for joining the Blurred Wire, and thank you again for joining me, Jeff and Andreas. This was awesome having you guys here, being able to talk about it, and I hope we will be able to do it again really, really soon because there's a movie coming out in a couple of weeks. I think it's called Lightning Bolts or Thunderbolt. Thunderbolts.
Thunderbolts.
Right, right. So maybe we'll get back together and talk about that.
You
Yeah.
need to get on the MCU's Bleeding Edge, sir. Get on the guest panel with us
Oh yes,
before
yes. We gotta do that too.
before
Hmm.
Thunderbolts. You gotta sign up for a show on one of the series that we're covering right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll make that happen.
Yeah.
So yeah, thank you guys so much for listening, and we will catch you next time on The Blurred Wire.